on, though. Showtime's Espinoza is saying, and sort of confirming what my article, I think, is going to delve a lot more into, that, quote, there's just too much boxing on TV. And his full quote, should we do some music, guys? Some sad music for Steven Espinoza?
Yeah.
Be a little petty? Let's be a little petty. Why not? Spice
He's
it
a
up.
sad little guy. Yep.
That's so mean, bro. Quote from Steven Espinoza. Look, candidly, I think there's too much boxing on TV. Too much boxing available. Espinoza told a group of reporters recently at MGM Grand. Quote, and when you are doing the number of fights that are being done across the market, it's hard to enforce a standard of quality. There's tremendous amount of noise in the marketplace. Unless you're the hardest of hardcore fans, it's tough to figure out which are the big fights, which are the medium fights, which are the prospect fights. You tune in not really knowing what to expect. It's hard for all of us to sort of remember what platform, what fights, where, and what they mean. He goes on to say, I have concerns that this is a business opportunity. And what I mean by that is when you launch a streaming service, you need content, you need tonnage, you need hours and hours of content. And there have been others in this market who have been very open that they're getting into sports streaming and using boxing as a stepping stone. So that doesn't speak well to their treatment of the sport or their long-term commitment to the sport. If you're saying it's a stepping stone to get into other sports, okay, what's going to happen? You're going to lead by a trail of expectations and everyone else cleans up the mess when these people are gone. I think across it all, that's why I think the commitment to the sport and understanding the sport and wanting to present it in the best way is key. I mean, we all love being able to see boxing every weekend, but, if that's what's best for the market, I don't think so. He goes on to keep talking and talking and talking, but I think you guys get the gist of it. I think he's absolutely right in a lot of things he's saying. I just think it's coming from a place of a little bit of bitterness and realizing that, we're behind the eight ball on this current marketplace as well. But what he's saying in terms of just from a factual perspective, I think he's absolutely right. There is market saturation right now. I delve into that a lot into this article that's going to come out probably tomorrow morning or sometime tonight. And to act like that's not an issue is ignorant. Now, is Espinoza coming at it from a genuine place of, for the sport, or from a business perspective of, hey, these new cats are in the industry and creating this economic bubble, and now we can't compete in the same way. Now the market's saturated.
He's just disingenuous, because if they had massive amounts of money being poured into Showtime boxing and they were getting all of the fights and they, Wilder and, Spence and all these guys were fighting on Showtime, he wouldn't be making these statements. And the fact of the matter is, he's just bitter in a way because he tried to call that, Hearn was going to fail in the U.S. market and that all these guys were going to fail in the U.S. market. And he's had, his statements about Top Rank. And he, threw all that money at Wilder for that Brazil fight. And then, look, now Wilder's fighting on Fox. So, he's just a bitter guy. But he's right.
Let's take it away from him, because we all know why he's saying this. But what he is saying is, it does have valid points. So let's address those valid points more so.
Absolutely. Yeah. This happens in anything.
Any industry.
I remember, I don't know, we've had this talk before when the Nintendo Wii came out, and everyone was super excited about the movement and stuff. And then they started releasing every third-party developer started releasing some cliche kind of carnival games or something to rip parents off. And eventually the market just fucking
collapsed.
Went complete shit. Right. And you can't do that. There is too much boxing on TV. It is really hard with all of the money that a fighter wants to make the top fights, because then you can't put a couple good fights on because you've got too much money going to one guy. There's so much there that is hard to continue to do. But we've talked about that, I think, as a group consistently. And I think people are just starting to really realize that this money is going to go away at some point,
And at some point, it's probably sooner than you think. And I know that Espinoza is a hater when he's talking about DAZN and Eddie and, the well drying up in some aspect, and vice versa, them to Showtime. But it's potentially true for both cases. When Eddie is out there saying Showtime Boxing is running out of funds, and vice versa, Espinoza saying the same thing about DAZN.
Yeah.
I think they're both right, to be honest. I think both sides are suffering in this current marketplace. Gary, your thoughts on Espinoza's quotes and obviously the current landscape of boxing in terms of a marketplace?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that question? I was looking at the chat.
It's okay, Gary. I can repeat it. Just your thoughts on Espinoza's quote about the market saturation in boxing, about too much cards on TV, the lack of quality in cards, and do you think that's a legitimate concern to have right now?
It's and I go back and forth on this, right? Like there are bad cards on, but before there were bad cards on, like go back when it was just HBO and Showtime, and HBO would have a card twice a month, and Showtime would have one once a month, and were we getting great cards then? Like I don't feel like although saturation is a problem, I don't necessarily think it's the problem that stops us from getting good fights, right? Like
no. Very quickly, I think you're absolutely right that that's not the singular issue as to why we get watered down cards. I 100% agree with you. I think there are separate issues within the marketplace. Like market saturation from the amount of cards in the sport is an issue. Card quality is an issue. But I think most of the time they're mutually exclusive issues, actually. I think what Fu pointed out about purses, about purse amounts, I think that is the main contributing factor as to why we have watered down cards. Because so much money goes to the top 1 or 2 fights that the rest of the card, they just can't support a deep card.
This bubble is going to have, like, they can't, I don't think, can keep paying fighters, right, this amount of money, which means they're going to, after these contracts are over, and I know, like, PBC and Top Rank are obligated to a certain amount of cards. I think Matchroom is obligated to a certain amount of cards, too. They're going to have to lower that number. And when you lower that number, I think these fighters, and I don't want to use the term overpaid, but I don't know another term to use right now, are used to being overpaid. And the only way to keep getting those giant purses is to take better fights, right? Like Tank was offered $5 million to fight Farmer. He will never get offered $5 million again. If he wants to take anything close, he's going to have to fight Loma, right? Because there's just not going to be 7-figure purses anymore moving forward for him to fight Hugo Boss and Amanda Nunes. Like, I don't know how they're paying these guys now and how that's sustainable. So,
well, sorry, Gary.
Go ahead. I'm still.
I was just gonna say, like,
well, let me jump in for
to expound upon Gary's point just real quick.
Before you expound, I want to just bring up some stats really quickly. Yeah. And this is going to be in the article. So again, read the piece. Comes out tomorrow. There in the calendar year of 2019, planned from major promoters or promotions and networks, there's 311 fight cards. 311. There's 52 weeks in the year.
Yeah, it's crazy. So my thing, Gary, is just to maybe give you some extra ammunition there, is I think that they don't have the money to pay those fighters, but they're forced to pay those fighters because someone else is going to give them the money even when they don't have it. So it's kind of like if your entire workforce at your job was going to walk out because they were going to get paid better somewhere else, you're just forced to pay them more because you can't shut down your whole operation. And that's kind of where, like, Showtime threw more money out there, and
DAZN.
DAZN's thrown more money out there.
ESPN.
ESPN, everyone, Frank Warren, they're all throwing more money and more money because it's like they can't lose, like Golden Boy. Mm-hmm. They can't lose Canelo. They're going to give him whatever amount of money he asks for. If he says open the books are going to get open, right? Like, because they would go bankrupt without him. Top Rank isn't going to be able to do it without Loma or Crawford or Fury, regardless of how we think they operate, like, they have to pay those guys. Because if Loma goes to DAZN or PBC, then Top Rank just lost a guy who pulls 1.5 million to 2 million, views on, like, ESPN when he was fighting, like a year ago. So,
can you back up from the mic a little bit? Or
yeah, sorry.
I don't know if you're hitting it or something, but it sounds like it's popping a lot. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is. It's weird. But digressing from that, I looked at only 5 fighters. It was just a small sample size, but it was fighters from all major promotions and networks. And the smallest percentage increase of average pay post DAZN, post ESPN Plus, post the demise of HBO, post that paradigm shift was Manny Pacquiao at like 48%. Everyone else blew him out of the water in terms of percentage increase in revenue. All these fighters, Spence, Crawford, 120% increase, 222% increase. Triple G, 700+% increase in pay. Like, this is such an astronomical increase in fighter pay within just a 6 months in a year maybe total, because HBO closed its doors technically in September of 2018. That's just a year and some change ago. That's not that long ago, but purses increased hundreds of percents for all the top guys. It's just the marketplace is in such flux right now that I don't know. And to the point, sort of switching back to a new way, like, you got to take the money when you can right now, because this well is going to dry up super fast, in my opinion. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if in a year or so, DAZN boxing and Showtime boxing are not what we think they are, or are not what they are today. I'm not saying they're gone per se, but they will largely be gone.
And Gary, would you say this is kind of like maybe a good comparison, like a basketball or a football team? They save up a bunch of money for the next big free agency. They sign all these guys, and then they can only keep them together for like maybe 3 or 4 years before they hit a salary cap where they've got to trade them off. I feel like that's kind of where boxing is. Like, some of these contracts, they won't be able to re-up like $100 million Fury deal,
No.
I think the NFL is a better analogy, right? Because there's a cap, and you literally can't afford to pay everyone. So I gotta, like, the Cowboys are in a position where they're gonna have to either pay Amari Cooper or Dak Prescott. They can't pay both, and I think boxing is gonna have that, right? Like, and I don't know that that's good, because I think they're still gonna pick the Wilders, the Furies, the Joshua, the big names, and the second and third tier names are gonna totally get left out, and I don't know that that's good for the sport. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or the second and third tier names are going to go to a completely different promoter who gives them like crazy money, like happens in the one fights that we always talk about. Who's the guy at DAZN that's getting all the crazy money? I went blank.
Jesse Vargas.
Jesse
Vargas, right? But here's the thing: when those guys go to some random place where they have no fights that can be made, then it stagnates the weight divisions as well. So there's a whole thing there when everybody gets
there's a
separated and nobody works together.
Oh yeah.
Matt, do you think it's going to grow the gap between the top tier and second tier fighters, or do you think the gap is, or do you think it'll stay the same, or do you think it'll get smaller?
Because of what? Because of this bubble, or the bubble bursting?
The bubble bursting. Well, both. The bubble that's created, and then what we all agree, Foo, right, that this bubble is eventually going to burst in likely the not so distant future, right?
Look, all economic bubbles burst.
That's what bubbles do.
It's just a degree of how much it bursts, how much investors pull their funds, like that. It's just the degree of how much. But I think in this current landscape, I think the B-level fighters are making a lot more money than they used to, probably. I think that is probably the case. Because I think, like, Jesse Vargas is a great case study of that. Like, just a guy that never is going to win a belt, but he's making 7 figures guaranteed per fight. And he's not even main eventing. Like, that's just crazy. That's just unheard of in boxing history, in my opinion.
But 3 years ago, what do you think Jesse Vargas's purses would be? Literally a tenth of that? 125, 150,000?
Yes.
You see, like, this is insane. Like, it just got... It's nuts. It's like the housing boom like 10 years ago. It's like, this is out of control.
Yeah. And now the post-burst, I don't know what the landscape looks like after that. Because I'll be honest, it could be DAZN realizing, look, the U.S. market is maybe a market that is costing us too much money. We're going to invest into Japan and Germany and other markets that we're far more successful in, and just divest from the U.S. market overall. Or they divest from boxing and they go into other platforms, into other sports, because they find avenues to those other sports. But boxing is the, quote, stepping stone, as they've said before. But and like for example, like I don't think ESPN Plus goes away. I think that's like we got numbers today coming out from the Sports Business Journal that ESPN Plus subscriber count is up to 3.5 million paying subscribers per Bob Iger, the president of Disney. Most recently, that number was at 2.4 million. So like ESPN Plus, because it's ESPN, I think it's gonna be fine. Showtime is at a 37% drop in average viewership this year. That's significant. Let's be honest. That's to be concerned about. And with the departure of PBC main fighters to Fox, I don't think that goes away. And Fox numbers have risen, so I don't think that gets divested in any way. I think Fox and ESPN, they survive the burst of that bubble, 100%.
Especially with the bundling of ESPN
Yes.
Plus, Disney
Yes.
Plus, and Hulu,
Yes.
that's going to give you automatically more ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus is never going away, guys. It's here to stay. Now it's not too surprising. It still sucks as a user interface, but hey, it's going to be there for the rest of time.
But there's good content on it. I get it's not
absolutely.
a great app, but there's good content on the app.
Absolutely. Yes, Gary asked me, is that true that he made 1.7 million for Delorme? Yes, he did. And then he made 1.3 million against Humberto Soto, or was it 1.2 million? It was over $1 million though against Humberto Soto when he was the third fight from the top.
That is insane.
And there's two.
Who
There's
did
two.
he have pictures of? Like, what did he have on Eddie? That's like, okay, just take all my money. Like,
Hey, but that's what happens when you have this huge bubble that's created. Is that money is spent like wildly, and that is what will expedite the bursting of that bubble. Is because investors see all this potential here with this new industry, this new product, this new technology, and therefore they're going to invest wildly in it. And all of a sudden, they don't
jump ship sooner than most other people.
Yes, and then they don't make the returns back, and then they divest their funds from it.
yeah,
And-
no kidding, Vargas jumped ship. Look what they offered him. Phil, like, I don't know what you make at your job.
Well, no.
If I said, Phil, come work for me, I'll give you $1.7 million your first day. Would you come work for me?
Well, what I mean is like if you're Eddie Hearn, right, and you get this massive contract from DAZN, and they say you've got to get some fighters and get some cards going, and no one signs up right off, then you start going down a level and offering ridiculous money, and Vargas said, "Fuck yeah, I'll jump ship and do that,"
Yeah.
and he's just still on that contract, so it's not going to be that sweet once it's over.
For a guy that's like, and me and Matt have different opinions of Vargas. I think Vargas is pretty good. Matt thinks he's just kind of okay. He's made a ton of money for being kind of an above average. He made so much money.
If there's a pound for pound list of guys that have maximized their potential when they really didn't have any, Jesse Vargas is high on that fucking list.
It's like Paulie, but he's made more. Like Paulie made a lot of money for not being very good.
Paulie's a good
he had a
example.
mouth and
Yes.
he could sell himself. Vargas doesn't. Like, but Vargas just played his chips right here. Like, I'm looking at this, is crazy.
And look, he came in, and like Fu said, like and alluded to, like he came in, and Eddie Hearn was kind of like begging for anyone to join Matchroom USA. That was a U.S. name of any value. And Vargas had been on HBO, had fought Manny Pacquiao on a pay-per-view. Like, he sort of checked the boxes, was, of Mexican heritage, is bilingual. Like he checked the boxes for a lot of things. He just wasn't a good fighter.
There's that problem.
That's a big problem.
But he's still rich, right?
Jesse Vargas was the Mario Barrios before Mario Barrios, let's just be honest. But hey, I don't think Mario Barrios is going to be able to make as much money as Jesse Vargas did. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like Jesse Vargas finessed the system in ways that no one has seen in any boxing lifetime. But guys, we're actually going to cut it short for today, and that's going to be it for the show. It's already late. It's going on 10 p.m. here. It's midnight over there in Dallas. Let's see. Santiago, did you press 1? Santiago, I don't see you press 1, so I'll give you like 5 seconds, 10 seconds if you want to press 1 to get a call going. But
I just really quickly want to say, like, how much is Gabe Rosado getting paid to get the shit kicked out of him every fight? And
so much.
Vargas is sitting here cashing in.
But no,
so
Rosado's
great.
probably getting paid a lot more than you think too.
above what he probably
should get.
would earn anywhere else. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
90 seconds.
But that dude is in the biggest wars every fight he goes out. I swear, he looks like he's been like fucking beat up by like 5 guys.
That's true. That's true. But anyways, we're going to head out of here. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed the fight this morning, last night, whenever it was that you're watching the show. And damn, just again, shout out to Nao Inoue. And you know what? Quickly, I want to give a shout out to Inoue and Donaire here. Donaire, he made this long, lengthy Twitter thread about this, that he promised his kids he was going to bring the Muhammad Ali trophy to the hotel room that night. And obviously he lost. And he had the humility to go and ask Inoue, hey, I promised my kids like like they could have the trophy for the night. Is that okay if I borrow the trophy? And Inoue had no issues with that at all. And that's just like the human story that has come, and the human stories that have come from Inoue and Donaire from this fight has just been amazing. Like, it's one of those fights that reinvigorates you as a fan. It does. Like, there's been a lot of tragedy this year, let's be honest, with the amount of deaths, the amount of just bullshit in the sport.
10 seconds.
We still have fights like this and people like this as well. So shout out to both Inoue and Donaire. Just great ambassadors to the sport. And obviously, let us know in the comment section below what your pound for pound list is. And who should be in the pound for pound list? Manny Pacquiao or Mike Garcia or Leo Santa Cruz? Who's the worst pick of that bunch? Who's the best? Clearly me. Clearly Fu is the worst. But digressing, find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms, guys. Fu, let the people know where to find you, and any final thoughts.
Foogatti MCR on all platforms. Final thoughts, man. It's been a good year of boxing. Like, as much as we thought it was not going to be, there's been some great upsets and some amazing fights this year.
Gary?
It really has been a sneaky, really good year of boxing. I don't think anyone's list was wrong. Mine was obviously the best. Mikey Garcia will beat Manny Pacquiao when that fight does happen. I think it will happen. And I don't like arguing with you, Skip. I never like that.
Skip. Don't call me Skip Bayless. That offends.
No, Skipper. It's like the head.
Oh,
the Skip.
I thought you called me Skip.
I wouldn't call you. No.
I'm like, damn, that hurts. That's mean.
Because realistically, he wouldn't be Skip Bayless. He'd be the other guy.
Wait, hold on. Wait, if I'm Skip Bayless, does that mean that like Gary, Shannon Sharp, and Smoking Black and Milds? That'd be funny.
You're also not Skip Bayless. You're the black guy he always fights with. What's his name?
Shannon Sharp.
Was Stephen A. It was Stephen A.
It was Stephen A.
That
Yeah.
show's been off the air for 3 years, Fo. He's on.
Oh yeah, I don't watch other sports. Sorry.
Anyways, Gary, you can find Gary at 3D Boxing Blog as well. And please, guys, go edit my article so I can post that shit. Hit the like button, share the show, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. Tomorrow, championship rounds on Patreon exclusively. I don't know when I'm going to do it because obviously the weigh-ins are tomorrow, but expect me to do it sometime tomorrow. Have a great night. Peace.